In 12-step programs, there is a step called making an amends. In this step, you go to the people that you have hurt or wronged in the past and you make amends with them. It's more than just saying, I'm sorry for what I did or for how I treated you, although that is a part of it. The other half of it is also making a concerted effort that you're going to do better and take different actions. This is something that I did many years ago with my two kids because I felt at the time that I was not showing up in the way that I wanted to show up for them. I was not being the mom that I thought they deserved. Too many of my patterns, too much of my woundedness was coming up and getting in the way of me being able to see what they needed and to meet their unmet needs. So when they were just being little kids or teenagers and they were acting out because they didn't know how to verbalize what they truly needed, I reacted toward the behavior rather than being able to see what they truly needed. And I was missing the mark constantly. In my book, Free to Be, A Pathway to Inner Liberation, I actually have a section where wrote about how I made amends to my two kids. And I feel that it is worthwhile to share this chapter with you because so often we can just really go blindly and hurt the people that matter most to us, hurt the people that are important. Oftentimes, we may not even realize that we're hurting them because it's just so habitual for us to behave in certain ways, or we're acting out patterns and belief systems, and we don't have the awareness that this is what is happening. This whole last quarter, the last couple of months, I've been focusing heavily on how we can create more meaningful relationships in our lives. I believe that this is one of the key components to living a fulfilling life, to have relationships that are healthy, that are connected, not perfect. So I know that many of you out there are recovering perfectionists. So when you hear this episode and you hear me say this, I'm not expecting you to have perfect relationships, but having the willingness to work on them and to cultivate more meaningful connections. One way that you can do that is by making an amends when you have said or done something to offend or hurt someone else. Just to recap what I have covered over the last couple of months that are also very important components of having healthy relationships are avoiding conflict or facing conflict head on, attachment styles. I talked about creating more connected friendships. I talked about how trauma can impact our relationships. That episode was with Dr. Charlena, and you can go back and check out any of these episodes, which I covered over the course of the last 2 months, starting with January 9th until now, March 27th. All of the episodes from that time period cover how to create or cultivate more meaningful relationships. To reiterate, today is about making amends. And I know that this can be so hard because we often don't want to take ownership or admit that we played a part in how the relationship is not working. This is the second step of my 5-step power pathway, which is ownership. You have to own your shit. If you don't own it and you stay in a place where you are pointing the finger and you're the victim, you will stay in this perpetual state of suffering, of pain, and not feeling connected or fulfilled at all. And then that will spiral into things like numbing on food or alcohol or staying busy, all sorts of strategies that we come up with so that don't have to deal with the void. We don't deal with the pain of feeling lonely and disconnected. That is one of the worst and hardest states to be in. It's a very primal state. I love listening to David Bear on YouTube, one of my favorite podcasters. And he talks about the difference between being in a powerful state versus a primal state. When we are feeling lonely or disconnected, if we're feeling sad, depressed, anxious, fearful, all of those feelings and states put us in a primal state, a fight or flight situation. When we're in a powerful state, we're feeling connected, we feel alive, we feel gratitude, we feel blessed, we feel strong and empowered, peaceful. And the list goes on of all of the powerful states that we can be in. So this is really my goal, is to help you through my podcast, 270 episodes, to help you become more aware of the masks that you wear, because those masks, or AKA patterns, limiting beliefs, are the very nature of what is keeping you from being in a powerful state. It's keeping you locked into a primal state. And I want to help you cross the bridge to go from prison of the mind to paradise. It's all about gaining the tools, creating a toolbox, and doing the inner work. Is it an easy road? No. Can it be a long road? It can be a long road. It can be difficult, painful. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass and say, do step one, two, three, and four, and you're going to be fixed. I'm not going to do that, because then I'm not being honest with you. When you travel this road and you do this inner work to be able to go from prison to paradise, primal state to powerful state, the shifts are deep and long lasting. That's why I come on week after week and share with you my experience, my strength, my hope, what I have learned through my own journey of going from prison to paradise, so that you may feel inspired, feel hopeful, and have the courage to start the journey yourself. Or if you're already on the journey, that when you feel tired and overwhelmed from climbing the mountain, that you can feel encouraged to maybe stop, pause, take a rest, but to keep on going and get to the top of the mountain. And then you may come down into another valley and then just get ready to go back up another mountain. So today, what I'm talking about is making amends, asking for forgiveness to help heal relationships. I shared in the beginning that I wrote about this in my book, where I made amends with my two kids, and they were young at the time. They were old enough to understand what I was saying. They might have been around 13 and 10, or 15 and 12, somewhere around that age. So they knew what I was saying. Were they able to take it fully in? I don't know at that time, but the key is that I have continued to grow. I've continued to work on myself and to change the way that I show up with them. And I know they can feel the difference in me. As I mentioned, when my kids were younger, I didn't have the relationship that I had hoped for. I was not in a good mind space, emotional space, spiritual space at all. And there were so many times that I did behave in ways that I'm not proud of. To this day, they can still be like, catch my breath. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I actually showed up like that. But then I am able to follow that statement up with some compassion and grace because I did the best that I could at that time and with the tools that I had at that time. What I wrote is that at one point many years ago, in an attempt to make amends, I shared with both my kids, but at separate times, how remorseful I felt. I shared with them and said, I'm so sorry that I ever hurt you. I regret all the times that I wasn't gentle, loving, understanding, and compassionate. I wish I hadn't been so critical, so harsh, blaming. I wish I could have been more nurturing and shared more of my heart with you. I then went on to say, and I'm sorry for the times that I raged at you, screamed at you, and chose to control you. I wish that every time I messed up as a kid, I had someone say, it's okay, you'll get it in time. I hated that they had to grow up in an environment where they too might have felt like they had to be perfect. I feared that they would grow up being as hard on themselves as I had been on myself, and I blamed myself for their screw ups. My reason for sharing the stories with you is to make the point that it's not about being perfect. It's about taking ownership for first having the awareness that I was showing up in a way that was harmful to them. And then it was about taking responsibility and saying, I realize I showed up like this and it wasn't fair to you, and I'm really sorry. And I'm going to do my best to work on changing my behavior. And again, now they're 25 and 22. And I continue to work on owning my shit and knowing when I'm showing up in an unhealthy way. I work on clearing that or healing that within myself. And then I can show up very cleanly with them. And that makes for a more meaningful relationship. It's clean between us.
Hey, it's Kim here, interrupting your regularly scheduled podcast episode to let you know about an opportunity to go deeper into this work. I invite you to head over to Amazon.com and pick up your copy of my book, Free to Be: A Pathway to Inner Liberation. If you are looking to unhook from people pleasing and perfectionistic patterns, if you're looking to have a better way of identifying your patterns and then how you can unhook so you can be free to step outside your comfort zone, free to have more meaningful relationships in your life, free to be your true self without hiding behind a mask any longer. If you desire any of this, then I encourage you to pick up your copy. And if you enjoy my book as much as I loved writing it, please go on over and leave a review on Amazon. You can leave a star review or written review. Now back to your regularly scheduled podcast episode.
This doesn't have to just pertain to children. You can be this way in any of your relationships. If you find yourself being overly responsible for other people, you will recognize very soon that it's exhausting. I actually had a listener write into me and shared with me that he was feeling extremely overwhelmed and burned out because he felt an overwhelming responsibility for other people. That can impact your relationships in a very unhealthy and negative way. One way to make amends or to make a course correction is to own that, is to take responsibility for the fact that you are taking on too much responsibility. This is what people can tend to do when they're codependents, is to be overly responsible. And especially as a people pleaser, we're just trying to make everybody happy. We're putting the needs of others ahead of our own. We don't even look at what we need. When you operate in this way, it's so impactful on a relationship in an unhealthy way. There's no balance, there's no equanimity. You are taking on too much and not allowing the other to actually have the privilege of being able to take responsibility for themselves. And this is one I catch myself in all the time with my kids. Even as young adults, they're 25 and 22, I can still find myself wanting to take care of things for them that I know they can take care of on their own. There's a difference between taking on too much responsibility, trying to manage their emotions, trying to fix their lives, fix them, give too much advice versus, hey, I see that you have a lot on your plate right now, and I see that you're super busy. Would you like me to help you with X, Y, and Z and help out? And I have space in my life, or my cup is full and I have some extra energy and I'm willing to do that, I'm not really hurting myself in an attempt to help them, then that's a healthy exchange. So there's a nuance there. And I want to make, again, if you are showing up in that way and you are noticing how exhausted you feel, how burned out you feel, and you don't feel like the people in your relationships are reciprocating, it's not a balanced back and forth kind of relationship, whether it's a friendship, it's your parent, it is your child, it's your partner, it's a coworker. If you're showing up in that way, it's for you to take the responsibility. And you can make amends by saying, hey, I just realized, you could even say, I was listening to this podcast by this Kim Gross person, and I realized that I was doing this in our relationship. I'm really sorry that I've been showing up in this way, and I'm going to do a much better job at taking more of a back seat and letting you take responsibility for the things that are your responsibility. So that's one thing you can do. The other thing that you can do is follow these 4 steps. If you're wanting to make amends, ask for forgiveness or clear the air, let go of resentments, let go of grudges, you can follow these 4 steps to see how it works. I have been mentioning the very first step all throughout this episode, which is to acknowledge and be aware of what you're doing. If you aren't aware, you won't be able to change anything. You can see that you're aware and say, I'm sorry that I hurt you, or I may have hurt you when I did this, said this, showed up in this way. You can, number 2, apologize in a very sincere way. Like it has to be heartfelt, and the other person has to be able to feel that you really mean it. And then you can offer to make an amends. Is there something that I can do to make up for this? I'm going to work really hard on taking responsibility for, I'm going to work really hard on not giving too much advice or trying to take care of you, trying to fix it for you, trying to manage everything for you. Whatever it is that you've noticed that you're doing, you can name it and say you're going to work on changing that behavior. And then finally, the fourth part is to affirm your intention so that you can move forward. And part of this would be you giving yourself lots of grace and compassion because it's hard. Life is hard. We're messy humans. You didn't get to this place of doing what you're doing without some type of initial wounding at some point in your life, whether it was when you were a child or another relationship where someone did some type of harm to you that created this pattern or this way of you showing up. I say this all the time. I don't believe that there is a single person out there who intentionally or maliciously wants to hurt other people. I really do believe that hurt people. And so if there's someone out there that is hurting another or you're hurting another person, it's because there's some hurt in you and you're acting from that place and you're not seeing what's truly underneath or the unmet need. So giving yourself a ton of compassion for why you are even showing up in this way in the first place is going to help you to make that amends and to change that behavior moving forward. Will it happen overnight? Absolutely not. I can tell you that I've been doing this work for years and it can still show up. The difference is today versus 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when my old patterns come up, I recognize them much quicker and I'm able to do something about it in a quicker way and with more ease. Sometimes it can just be a matter of minutes where I recognize what I'm doing. I see the pattern, I'm aware, I take ownership of it. I see what that wounded part of me needs. I can journal about it or I can meditate on it. I can just feel it. I go inward. I give that part of myself what it needs to heal. I embrace that part of myself. And then, boom, I can come back and I can respond in a different way. What I just laid down for you right there is my 5 step power pathway, the quick synopsis of it. My 5 step power pathway is the bridge to get from that prison to paradise. And if you are ready because you're tired of living in the prison, or you've been walking this path for a while and you're just feeling I'm not moving along the pathway the way that I want to. I need a little jump start. I need a little kick. I need a tune up, whatever it is. And you are looking for some extra help, by all means, you can reach out to me and let me know. You can shoot me an email, Kim at kimgrosscoaching.com. Everything is on my website. You can book a call with me from my website. You can see my quiz for people pleasers and perfectionists. My new book is on my website, my podcast, my 5 step power pathway. Everything you need to know about what I do in the world is on my website, kimgrosscoaching.com. It'll also be in the show notes. If you are new, thank you so much for stopping in and listening. I hope you found this valuable and you can go back and look at many of my old episodes. I have probably, I think, 270 episodes since 2020. And you can see through the years, even my own progression from where I was to where I am. You can see me over time walking that pathway of going from prison to paradise and having more freedom, because that's what's available, right? More freedom, more gratitude, more peace, more joy, the ability to live in the present moment, to let go of fear, to have connected and meaningful relationships, to not have that pressure of worrying about other people all the time, not feeling like you're stuck in your comfort zone or playing small, not feeling like you're not worthy enough, good enough. You start to feel more alive. Life feels different. You can look out your window, and if the sky is blue, you see the blue sky, the flowers, the trees, everything becomes more vibrant the more you do this healing work. That's my experience anyway. That's all I can speak from is my own experience, my own strength, and my own hope. That's what I'm here to share with you each and every week. I hope it lands in a good way with you. If you have more questions or want support, please reach out to me. If you love my podcast as much as I love creating it for you, because I really do enjoy creating these episodes and talking about this healing work. I can talk about it morning, noon, and night. I love it that much. I'm all about growth and connection. I'm here for you if you need me, and I will see you in the next episode.
Hey, Kim Gross here. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Masks Off for People Pleasers and Perfectionists. I invite you to hop on over to my website, kimgrosscoaching.com. Right there on the front page, there's a quiz for people pleasers and perfectionists. You can find out if you have tendencies. You can also get into my newsletter where you will be given valuable content every week on different topics I share here in the podcast. And if you really did enjoy this episode, if you found it helpful, if you found it valuable, please go to, if you're on YouTube, go and subscribe. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, then I invite you to leave a review. You can even do a star review. It doesn't have to be a written review. If you know of someone who can benefit from this podcast or this particular episode, please share it with them. I'll see you next time.